2024 meeting of the Newcastle Planning and Zoning Commission order. First item of business to be roll call.
Gordon Hines.
Present.
Carl Evans.
Here.
Gary Bennett.
Here.
Will Wright is absent. Steve Claiborne.
Here. We do have a quorum and we'll proceed with business. Next item, the approval of the agenda is presented. There's no request for change.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented. I'll second.
A motion and a second, all in favor, signify by number is be unanimously approved. Item 3 is to consider approval of the minutes from our October 28, 2024 meeting. Do we have any corrections? I found none.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, signify by number is be unanimously approved. Item number 4 is report of the City Council's decision on Planning Commission's recommendation at the last meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes. The City Council of Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, these are the planning items. There was a request for a rezoning from E1 to E2 made by Mr. James Wilson at 709 South Portland. That was approved. That was 4-0. And the next item was a ordinance amendment to chapter 153, section 153.012, filing fees, establishing a fee for subdivision engineering plan review. Was the ordinance amendment that required the $100 per plan set in addition to the final plat filing fee. That was approved 4-0. The next item was a preliminary plat of Blue Ridge South and a replat of Common Area A and B of Blue Ridge Estates 1. That application for the preliminary plat and that replat of those common areas was approved 4-0. And then there was a use permitted on review for a commercial disposal well for the Griffith family. Charter Oak Production is the owner of the oil and gas company. And this is on Southwest 24th, a quarter-mile west of Main Street, and off of Southwest 24th on the north side of the road. That application, the council has the ability to vary the setback down to 250, but the closest protected use was 341 feet. And that was approved 4-0. And those were all the planning commission items for that meeting.
I might note that there was quite a bit of discussion on that issue at the meeting, and some summary comments made that there wasn't a lot of discretion on whether it was allowable or not, because that's an issue for the Corporation Commission. But the distances on that road requirements and that sort of thing were things that could be addressed, and they did agree that, as per our recommendation, they would follow the routing map that they laid out, and it'd be off the highway on 24th Street, no, off of 62 on 24th Street into the track of land. Ultimately, they did go through.
I have a question about that. Because in the summary of it, it says, the existing well there was approved in 2011 under the old ordinances, and the old ordinances prohibited disposal wells. When did the ordinance that it was under in 2011, when did that go away and the ordinance change?
2018,
We changed it.
They updated the oil and gas.
That was one of the ones. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In accordance with state.
in accordance with state, that's when we were doing all the oil wells and all that kind of stuff, and we had to get up to date when the state essentially said, we have no jurisdiction.
Accepted.
We have very limited.
Right, okay. Just, that's what I thought, just wanted to make sure that I had my facts straight before I start answering questions.
Yeah.
Item 5, continuous request, there have been none, so we'll proceed. Item number 6 is an opportunity for citizens to make comments that are not on our agenda tonight. Do we have anyone wanting to be heard on matters not on our agenda? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Item 7 is lot split deed approvals.
No.
Item 8 is a public hearing to discuss an application for use permitted on review for combined stable for horses for Diego Murrieta and Angela Gill, husband and wife, located in the southwest quarter, section 29, township 9 north, range 4 west, in the Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property location is 2251 South Ross Drive, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is UPOR 2024-004.
Good evening, Kevin Hageberg, Senior Planner. As stated, UPR 2024-004 is for use permitted on review for confined stables per 154-025 D9. This is located at 2251 South Ross Drive. Surrounding zoning, surrounding land uses, first of all, if you look at the screen or in your packet, you'll see that it's to the north, it's large lot, estate residential. To the northeast and south. To the west is vacant agricultural with similar land uses associated with those as well. The future land use map is suburban residential all around. This UPOR does not require a land use designation amendment. So moving forward with this, effectively what this UPR will do will reduce the 70,000 square feet requirement lot area per horse down to what is 600, and we'll go over how we landed on that number through research. So beginning, looking back at how this kind of property was formed, we'll kind of begin there and then work through the conditions of the property and how it aligns with the UPOR. So as stated, this is on Ross Drive. It's a dead-end street, private road. It has 6 lots that are on it, with 2 of those fronting onto Southwest 24th Street. This is lot 3 of that. 2 of those were split to allow for rezone from ag to E1 to allow for a lot split. That reduced 2 of those properties to 1 acre, or correction, 2 acres to allow for that. And then in 2003, well, prior to that split, in 2003, Richland Park was platted in E2. So if we look at the section as a whole, the whole section, it leaves about 3/4 of this section as agricultural. So in the early 2000s was agricultural, and then over the years 2003, 2005, we begin to see those lots reduce and rezone to allow for splits. So with this, the property was created in 2005. The current owner has lived there since 2015. It's been agricultural for this time, and they have been keeping horses and other animals on the property since that time. In June 2024, the city received 2 complaints for the property, one in regards to excess animals and another for lights. I'll touch on the lights and impacts. That is outside of the purview for what the initial request is for this UPOR. As for the animals, upon review from code enforcement officers, it was found that there were excess animals on the property. At the time of the review, there were 7 horses, 8 steers, and 6 goats. The goats have since been removed from the property to kind of make way for it to get into compliance with what is allowed on the property. At that time, we still have excess animals on the property. So the applicant, once they were told to reduce the animals, they kind of gave us a story of why they have the animals on the property. They are involved in roping. So with that, they run and exercise about 7 of the horses with the roping, and then rotate the steers through so that they're not getting roped all multiple times in one evening. They do have property in Blanchard. However, to effectively use the property as they desire, moving the appropriate amount of animals, whether that be cattle or horses, to and from Blanchard would make the property less effective than if they were to keep them on the property. So at that time, the applicant was directed to apply for the use permit on review as previously stated. And I'm going to read that verbatim so that because it has a couple conditions in there why it can be allowed. Stable for confined care of horses on tracts of 10 gross acres or less, size of structure and number of horses permitted to be subject to required setbacks of this district, evaluation of lot size, other improvements to the property, and surrounding conditions, including location of neighboring residences. As we looked at this, there is nothing in our ordinances that defines what a confined stable is. So through research, we reached out to Oklahoma Department of Ag, the McLean County Department of Ag, and a couple of extensions or state university extensions, North Carolina and Minnesota, as well as an ag feed producer, Mad Barn, who has some equine experts on there. And really what we narrowed it down to were there are two definitions for confined stables, stall rest and dry lot. Stall rest is typically defined as areas less than 400 square feet, and this is used for keeping horses in a confined area for rest from injury or illness. Dry lot, on the other hand, is more commonly synonymous with paddocks, dry paddocks, which are used when foraging or large areas are not available to horses, keep them in a more confined area. And again, that is a larger than 400 square feet. So with that, again, the research recommends 400 square lot minimum lot size or minimum area size per horse for dry lots. And then that's including supplemental feeding, exercise routines, all of which the applicant does employ on their property. They do have supplemental feeding, as there is, which we'll see here on the next slide. There is no foraging or grazing available on this property. It's dry lot dirt. In addition to an exercise routine, so these horses are exercised through their roping practice. With that, we'll kind of touch on each of what those conditions of the UPO are for, beginning with size of structure and accessory structure setbacks. So the barn on the stable on the property is about 3,900 square feet. It has 8 stalls in it, with one of those being a run in the back to enter into and from the barn. And the property or the barn is in line with the setbacks of the agriculture district. It is 19 feet from the south property line. It's only required to be 17. That kind of rounds out the requirements for size of structure. It is meeting what we would expect for stable for size and setbacks purposes. Evaluation of lot size, it is 5.09 acres. And under current general agricultural rules, for your awareness, that would equate to about a maximum of 3 horses on the property. So it's rather large, but not many horses can fit there. Again, that's assuming foraging and grazing is available to horses. So under the current or the proposed 600 square feet per horse, it would be 10 horses permitted, which would still allow them room for their steers, as it is a cumulative total for the animals that are permitted on the property. Other property improvements, with discussions through the applicant, they do employ a weekly off-site manure removal automatic fly spray system that controls or is in line to control odors and pests such as flies that are common in stalls or stables rather. A walking carousel in the front and east of the property, which can be used to have unmonitored space for the horse to walk, which would reduce any trampling in any of the paddocks in the back. Additionally, as noted there, they have 7 separate independent paddocks that can be used for confinement for anything necessary, or if they have any type of fall that might come in and need to have the mare with that big horse there, as well as independent exercise areas. The lighted arena, this is what that complaint was regarding. The lights were oriented in a more horizontal plane. They have since been oriented down and away from properties, and as of the beginning of this, as of earlier today, was noted that the light shields per City Council's guidance have been installed. I do intend to go out to the property after this to evaluate that and then report back to City Council for that complaint. Location of neighboring residences, as noted on there and in your staff report. To the north, the stable is approximately 370 feet from the north residence within Richland Park. 225 feet from the property to the east, and 324 feet to the property to the south. After assessing these conditions, this UPR is consistent with both agricultural use and zoning. However, when we look at what the implications of reducing lot sizes or minimum square footage requirements for, it can be a little bit daunting to see that, hey, we're reducing 70,000 square feet to 600. However, with the proposed and existing conditions of the lot and the measures that the property owner is going through, the city staff supports and recommends UPR 2024-004 with those conditions and maintaining the current property characteristics. The applicant is present for any questions. However, I will also note that this property did receive 50% of the notified area protest. What that means is it needs to have a favorable vote at City Council. There is no requirement for Planning Commission to have a majority vote other than to pass if so choose and if you so choose for that protest.
I might just note that I've been around when we did the 70,000 square feet. That number is selected in anticipation of having grazing available for livestock on 5 acres or on the tract. So that's year-round grazing for the animals, and that's why it's such a large number. It's not particularly that it's required for reasonable stocking horses because of supplemental feeding. That's well in excess of what's reasonable. But that's how we got that number back home.
So let's still go ahead.
One question, Joe, and I'm looking at the home on Mulberry Lane. Looks like there's a pool right next to the property. How far is that home from that property line? It looks like there's two of them on the end of Mulberry Lane. One has a pool, the other one looks like to the west of it.
Yes, sir. That's about 370 from the stables. So probably in that 350 range on the 2250. I'm not sure. It's about 2247.
About 200 feet. That's my property.
So this is still zoned ag, right?
Yes, sir.
So my whole deal is the dry lots, right? How much dust are we gonna get up on that lawn? You know, the whole deal about the 70,000 is there's enough vegetation that you're not living in a dry lot. And dust control is a real thing. And obviously those folks to the north, I mean, the wind blows out of the south in this part of the world, right? So, I mean, if I lived north of there, that would be the very first thing that I would have heartburn over is dust control off those lots. That's all I would have to say at this point.
Well, it looks like the actual runs are on the south side of the barn. And
Yeah.
you've got,
Well, is any of that kind of vegetation like it? It doesn't look like any of that.
Yeah. And I can leave those questions to the applicant.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just my opening question, right?
the amount of stuff that's been on that grass crop is pretty well beat out, but not, I mean, it's still going to be natural soffit to some degree.
I'm just looking at this picture and it looks like a dirt lot.
It's all
Even if a horse isn't on it, it's going to be dirt for however long. And then we can't, it's zone ag, they can still have 3 horses on it. So whether we say it's 7 or 3, there's going to be horses on those lots. So that there's nothing, like that part of it isn't really, for me, isn't part of the discussion. Because if we say no, it's still zoned ag, they can still have 3 horses, and that's still going to be dirt. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So are we saying that's for 3 horses or 10?
So current is 3. 10 was, so I'll explain the 10. So the 10 was the maximum number that we would recommend you put into your conditions for the UPR. 10 is predicated that would be 600 square feet per horse, putting them at 6,000 feet for the horse. And again, with that available space, square footage for the property, they would then be able to calculate the permitted cattle to 7. I believe that's 210,000 square feet plus a 600 for the 6,000 for the horse would put 216,000 square feet, which is just shy of that 5 acre total square footage requirement. So it's a little bit of a numbers game to fit the allowed animals in there that they have, that has been there for a couple of years as well. Again, so because it's a cumulative number, so we're just adjusting the horse square footage down to continue to allow the same cattle quantity.
Okay, but now that,
Horses and 7 cattle? Is that what it is?
no, we'll call you to the stand in a moment, or to the podium. On the horses in the 600 square feet, that's based on the available stalls and runs, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And other than that, there's ground that you're talking about being able to run the cattle on.
Within those paddocks.
If you are allowed, the horses are allowed as a combined.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions for the applicant? Do you want to come up and
I'm
state?
actually the neighbor, so I don't know if you want to.
Oh, I'm sorry, the applicant who goes.
Yeah, we're all neighbors waiting to talk.
You guys want to talk to the applicant or?
Does anybody, yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a couple questions, if you would.
Good evening, my name is Angelica Gill, and I'm with 2251 South Ross Drive, Newcastle.
On the exercise facilities, it was mentioned you got a carousel, I'm assuming that's a horse walker.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's regularly been used in the past.
Oh, yes, since we've been there, we put it up.
And, I guess, questions been raised in regard to dust control. During summer months, have you had any problems with that in the past?
Never until today. This is the first time, and I've been there for a few years. And I mean, even though if I didn't have any horses, that dust is going to, with that wind, it'll pick up dust.
Anyone else have any questions?
How many are on it right now? 'Cause I'm just looking at a completely bare patch. I just wonder how many's on it to make it.
Yeah, I think there's 8 on there right now, and the 6 years? 6 years, and yes.
So your steers stay in the rope and pins?
No, we move them to the next pen where we keep our
But they stay outside?
oh yeah, they stay outside, yes.
So let me ask you a question. Does that 5 acres have much grass on it?
Where it surrounds my home, yes, but where the horses are at, no.
No.
Yeah, I just want her, because I don't have a really good picture, but I just want her to tell me, so I understood. Thank you.
I mean, I also have the contract where, I do have the picture of the 2 dumpsters that I have, which are for the manure. This is picked up every Thursday. And, I also have the picture of I pay, the city of Newcastle for my 2 extra containers for the trash for, my home. I did get a copy of the, when we recently put up the for the flies, control of flies,
Oh,
the fly spray, which we put up on in 2017. So we've been using, that's constant. So I mean, if that was the case, like they said, regarding that it wasn't taken care of, it has been taken care of ever since we moved there, since we started putting horses in the property. So if you have any more questions, I got some.
Do you own the horses or are they someone else's?
They're mine.
They're all yours.
They're all mine. Yes. My daughter and my husband team rode. So those are ours. And I also wanted to show you a video of the light. Now it's where they put it down. So half of the arena has light. The other half doesn't have light. And I don't know if you want to see that. I have it on my cell phone. So okay, let me see that for you.
Is this the arena that you run in?
Yes.
And then all the others are the dry paddocks?
Yes.
For the,
Yes.
it's cross fenced and all that?
Yes, it is.
I have a question about the duck, or about the vegetation cover on the area we have horses. Is there any mitigation measures that you've ever gone through that, or had any issues in the past regarding any excess dust or anything?
Never. In all the years that I've been there, this is the first time.
I just wanted to express that we haven't gotten a complaint regarding that. It was just the excess animals and the lighting. There was never a complaint about any
Dust?
dust.
Never. I mean, I never had any complaints of my horses or anything.
just like, what brought this?
First, it was the light.
It was the number of horses, the number of animals to the lot area, and then the light.
I don't know if I should, if I could talk really quick. We also were going to be sued, and I was waiting for my neighbor's lawyer to call me because they said that I had gone 18 inches into the west property. When they did that, they wanted to tear my fence down. So I got my paperwork, so that way we could measure the lot. And when they told me they were going to cut my fence down, well, I measured my lots twice, when I bought it, when we purchased it, and when I was going to build my fence. The surveyors came out. So this time, I don't know who moved the pens, but those pens were moved. And I know it's illegal to be moving the pens back and forth. And it was, I guess, Mrs. Allen's employed by, she employed a surveyor. And those pens were moved. First, because they said that I was on the gentleman's property, 18 inches into his property, which it wasn't correct. So when I got a surveyor, he was going to come out, the neighbor to my west called me, and he said, you know what, this is, and he just, words that I can't pronounce, but everything was okay, but I guess, I don't know if this is more personal with my neighbor. Yeah, and this is just getting too much out of hand, because I've never had any complaints with one neighbor. If I put those lights up, they want a shield, I put those up. I always have my 2 containers for my house and for the maneuver, the fly spray. It's been paid. I got my receipt where I paid for 3 months, over $1,000. It's not something that I'm not doing something that I'm not supposed to. I'm doing what I think is right to keep everybody happy, but I don't know when I'm going to be happy, because this is just going out of hand. It's one thing after another.
Well, that's why the UPOR has been added.
And that's what I said. If I would have known this was not an agriculture property, I would have never bought that property.
It is agriculture.
That's what I'm saying. If it wasn't ag, I wouldn't be living there. But I'm living there because I know when we purchased it, we wanted to make sure it was ag.
It's just the number of horses, the number of animals
Right.
total that's allotted by that lot area per animal. that's what you weren't in compliance with. So this is an acronym to help you become compliant, and that's why I have to go through planning commission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wants to hear? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lambert. My property is at 2247 Mulberry. My property is right next to theirs. I was there along the other neighbors well before the horses were there and all that, which is fine. And just to let them know, I'm not against roping, any of that whatsoever. But there was grass, there was sod all over, but now it's 100% dirt. And there are a lot of horses there. And several years ago, I did call and make a complaint to the city. They sent at that time, the code enforcement guy out. I think he quit, and they sent the animal control out. He said he went over there and talked to him a couple of times. There's kind of a language barrier, I believe, is what he said. But the biggest things are the smell. The smell's horrendous. They do occasionally pick up manure, but it's so dry, it's more like a urine smell, and it is ridiculously bad. I can't sit out on my back porch. There's no way I'll be able to sell a house here in a couple, 3 more years. The flies are extremely bad. The neighbors all around the sides of me, they all complain about the flies. They seem to be getting worse, and the dust is really bad. Now, of course, it doesn't bother them because that's not where the dust is blowing. It's not blowing into their home, but it blows into all of the rest of the homes there in Richland Park. All up around here, and the people we spoke to even on the other side, they're getting some dust and they get a lot of flies.
Now, where's your house?
My house is right here.
Okay.
Their property is right here, and the dust blows directly here, it blows into the new neighbors over here. The new neighbor, he hasn't been there long, and he came over and asked me what the flies were all about. I told him, he said, oh, I didn't know that. He wants to do something about it as well. He signed a petition saying, hey, I don't want any more of this. They did mitigate their lights. They do turn their lights off at night, instead of leaving it on. We do appreciate that. But the smell is really bad, like I say, and it's a urine smell. My dad and I had thoroughbreds back in the day. We had 5 or 6 of them on 40 acres. And I think that's mostly the problem. I don't think the flies are going over their house as much as they're getting blown over into that area where I live and the other residents live. It looked like sometimes a Saharan dust storm, when the wind kicks up. It's pretty bad. But the worst part of the flies, they get all in the house. I have to buy a fly fogger. It's just unsanitary. It's unhealthy. The woman who lives next to me is the chief nursing officer at Integris. She's going to see what she can do to make a complaint about that. She's complaining about that as well. She signed a petition against it, just because it's a very unsanitary situation. That's all I can really tell you. But like I say, yeah, they don't have any problems with the dust because the dust the wind doesn't blow into their house. It blows from the south to the north most all the time. So that's the reason that I'm here. Once someone else got the ball rolling on that, I was happy to sign a petition against that, against them having more horses. They did have a lot of horses on there, and once they started eating all the grass and all the vegetation's gone, that's when I started noticing the smell. I don't know what they're doing to mitigate the flies, but it doesn't seem to be helping much as far as in the neighborhoods here. They're really bad. So that's what I'm here to speak about. Like I said, I don't have any problem with the horses. The roping's fine, but it's quite a bit of deal just for them to have a hobby. It's not a business they have. They're not making money. It's just a hobby, which I understand is fine. But the amount of horses there and the animals they have here were just too much. So that's what I would say. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Craig Licky, 2300 South Ross, so just right here. And I have more of a question than comments. So if this is permit is passed, what if they ever move to where they could have a large ranch or whatever? Does this enable any future people to have a business with this permit added to the property? As you know, this is a private road and very few maintenance on it. So added business, added traffic just adds to the compounds the problem that I do to maintain the road and things like that. So would this permit enable anyone or them to start a business?
No more than it is right now, I guess is probably the best answer. I mean, it's not gonna let any denser use than it is now. Stable wouldn't be any different type of use business than it is now.
Just let them, up to 10 horses.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't allow any expansion, and I would say, I doubt that there'd be a UPR that would allow an expansion past this.
Yeah, because, you know, this property was, this little plat was originally supposed to be 5 acres, and as they pointed out, it's been subdivided twice. And it just, you know, don't want to keep changing the permits and plans.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally laid out to be agricultural by the tracks.
Correct.
Played with a couple of them there.
I can just add to that, if, you know, obviously this is a recommendatory body, they make recommendations, it still has to go to city council.
Correct.
But the UPOR has those parameters in that, that's filed with the county, and it has to come back to us. It goes with the land, and it cannot be adjusted unless they go back through the same process. So, if somebody bought, say she sold it, and somebody tried to bring 20 horses in there, we would tell them, you're gonna have to get rid of 10 horses and however many other animals that you have.
Right.
And probably highly likely would not recommend any further, changes to this UPO law.
Yeah, because, you know, the roping arena, I mean, it'd be great, but you have to till that roping arena.
This would be the maximum.
Anyone else?
I'm Alicia Allen, and I live 2325 Rural, right at the bottom of it, actually at 5 acre tract, in between us. I kind of have a long scenario, so I wrote it down, and then I will explain what happened with it. The property that's requesting to be rezoned.
Before you start,
Yes,
show me which property you're on. That way I understand what you're talking about.
Right here, this 5 acre tract is in between. So right here is the back one.
So you're 5 acres away from them.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt.
No. So the property that's currently requesting to be rezoned is on the market for sale right now. The owners have had it listed for sale, the current owners, in 2022, 2023, and it's on the market again right now. There's, as I just said, there's a 5 acre tract between us and 2251 Ross, the 2251 Ross Drive property. In June of this year, the property owners of 2251 installed bright lights on tall poles facing the south on an arena area on our property. The lights were shining directly at the back of our house and shining into our bedroom. We tried to have conversations about the lights, and the owner of the property told us that she would do what she has to do and that we should buy black curtains. That's what started all of this. The lights were left on until 1 a.m. or more. These lights were directly affecting us, but there were also lights on the front and back of the barn that affected other neighbors. Over the years, multiple different neighbors have come to me and asked if there was anything that I could do to help about the amount of animals or lights that were affecting so many neighbors. When the arena lights were directly affecting me, I went to the city. The lights had been turned down only once the city stepped in to tell them if they had to do something about it. There's no consideration from the property owners concerning how their neighbors are affected by what they are doing. They're not willing to address concerns without the city stepping in. In 7 years that we lived there on Rush Drive, we've counted as many as 13 horses with babies. There's anywhere from 6 to 8 head of cattle and several goats. The goats were recently moved off the property, but we still counted 8 horses and 5 or 6 cows as of right now. Due to the large number of animals on the property, no vegetation can grow, which causes runoff from this property into somebody else's property on the west, which connects to a creek. The cattle have gotten out multiple times over the years, and they allow dogs to roam off their property. Multiple conversations have been had over the years about their dogs being out. Back in 2018 or 2019, the property owners were turned in for all of this, but the issue was swept under the rug, and neighbors didn't know how to actually push the issue to get it under control. As was stated, there was a protest letter that we actually went and talked to everybody. We have 14 signatures from 14 neighbors stating we don't want this to be rezoned. We would like to see it go back into the original zoning that it was meant for, that we feel like, because this 5 acres is right up against Richland Park.
And you aren't in Richmond Park, is that correct?
No, sir, I am on the private road.
Okay.
I am 2 doors down from them. We live on a private road, and the property owners of 225 will make up the majority of the traffic, creating wear and tear on our road. They do not contribute to any road maintenance. Horse trailers and large trash trucks and to dump the large dumpsters travel up and down the road a lot. It was basically Richland Park, I feel like, is right up against them, and Richland Park was established before these 5 acre tracts were cut into this section. I know that it's always been zoned as, but it's a 5 acre tract. No, it's not the larger section of property that it once was. I don't expect an answer to any of these questions, but some of the things that I'm wondering is the city prepared to allow everybody that's zoned ag to have the maximum amount of animals on every section of property that's zoned ag in Newcastle? Is the city prepared to verify that this isn't actually a business opportunity that's going on? Is the city prepared to make homeowners pay a higher percentage of road maintenance due to the heavy traffic? Is the city prepared to limit outdoor light use time if this is passed? They were on till like 1 a.m. Has the city thought about possibly doing a study with the Department of Environmental Quality to see what the impact of the runoff water is to the other properties due to the ground saturation of urine from a large amount of animals on the property? And then I'm also wondering, is the city prepared to maybe demand a retention pond to hold the rainwater off to keep the waste areas from just running all over the place? My property does have water that runs off of it and runs all back, and there's a creek back there.
To the west?
Yes. Yep, pretty deep creek. Concerning it being a personal issue, I can assure you it's not a personal issue. I would have rather just said, hey, can we talk about the lights and get this taken care of, instead of being told to go buy black curtains and that she was going to do what she needs to do. I feel like I just would rather just stay the regular zoning that it's supposed to be for all of our sakes. There's a smell issue, there's a dust issue. She's saying it wasn't turned in, and it's because it was brushed under the rug in 2018, 2019, and nobody else knew how to come about this. It's been months of us sitting through city council meetings. We're trying to get, everything worked through. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. Concerning the fence, what happened was the west side property behind their property was sold from one neighbor to another neighbor. There was a surveyor that was paid to come survey the property that was split off, that was sold. And he is the one that put the pins in the ground, and he is the one that said that her fence was not in the right spot. The owner of that property contacted her and let her know about it. He's the one that told her he was going to end up having to cut the fence because the property was being sold and it wasn't done right. I spoke with her realtor, and he asked me to step in and have them reassess it and double check it, and I agreed. When the surveyor went out, he went and rechecked the pins, and he decided that he was trying to get the numbers to close up on survey, and that there was something else that he found that made him push the pins to a specific place where technically the fence is over, but it's like 2 inches now, so it's not a big deal. He was not employed by me. He was employed by the owner of the property. A surveyor is a unbiased third party that delivered information to the title company. I did not pay him. So I think it's a lot of misunderstanding. I think that she's not understanding how the process works, and I'm not saying that I do 100%. I just like this mess to get under control.
Is there anyone else who would like to hear?
Hello. My name is Autumn Adopoulos. I live in 2210 South Highway 76, and our property is directionally challenged.
I'm Jeff Begley, I'm her husband, the same property address. To the west.
You have a Highway 76 address?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Where
right here somewhere. Correct? Is this 24th, this Dollar General right here?
We are this lot here,
Okay.
and this lot.
You are the folks that bought the property to the west?
Yes.
Okay.
So it directly will run up on it.
We're now adjacent.
Okay. Yes. So they're taking care of the lights. We just learned today that the shields are up, so we'll look forward to
Looking forward to seeing if it's
the impact of that. So
to see that.
that's good news. I will agree with the smells. I mean, because the wind travels, and there are some days when I'm out front of our property where we're not right next to them, but you get wafts of the animal smell, and you're like, well, I can't even work out here. So I'm just here. We're here to support. I don't know if there's more you want to say. I'm sure there's going to be more animals. I feel bad for the animals, but and there is no grass that we've seen.
I'm definitely not someone that wants to restrict somebody's enjoyment of the property, because I wouldn't want somebody to tell me what I can't do on my property, but there should be mitigation for the effects of the runoff and the smells and
I'm concerned about the
And the
addition of
lights.
animals.
looking forward to seeing if the lights actually are improved and whether haven't had a chance to see that.
But I think everything that was shared, we agree with. So it's here to support. We're not for.
I was wondering, does the runoff come across your new property? Is that what I did?
It might.
It kind of goes, where you kind of see right here, it's kind of dry creek.
Okay.
It runs off and so we're right along here, so it's property line, so it skirts our property, but.
There's a lot of overgrowth right now, so it needs to be brush hogged down so you can get a better perception of what's there.
May I ask a question? So did you come to the city or work with whoever you bought that property from to do a lot split?
It wasn't a lot split, it was a lot line removal, and Julie, knew about it, and she didn't know which way to work. She didn't know which way to work out the process, so we told her that we were pushing it through, and then coming in, and she said that was fine. So we closed last week, and we're waiting on the deed to be filed and bring to her as soon as it's filed.
That's not the normal process as far as
That's what she told us. She said that she didn't
the
know when.
line adjustment, not a lot split.
Right, because they basically engulf the 5 and the 7. It's not a lot split. It was a lot line.
And you own the property that's in front of it is on 76, is that correct?
Yes.
And
To the north.
you own to the north,
And
to the
then we
north.
run out to 76, yeah.
West of that property?
No,
Should be straight to the west.
yeah, straight
Right,
to the
straight to the west.
right.
But
Yeah,
your property that you live in, the property that you own,
It's kind of catty corner.
It's like diagonal.
It would be like that.
Yeah, my house is
And then
kind of right here. Let me just add, this extends out.
but its
Our house.
split was done because you split off from that 15 acres.
I talked to Julie about it, and she said it was a
I'll
lot.
talk to her. That's not the normal process. When I hear you that you split it, then we haven't seen that come through yet. Because you have to do a lot split warranty deed approval. You go through the city process, and then you file that with the county, and then you bring that back to the city. So it's filed in record with the county. And so that way we make sure that the lot area is taken care of, that there wasn't a landlocked piece that was created out of that split, so.
It
I'll
would
have
have
to
been
talk-
landlocked except we own the adjacent property that goes to 76.
And so, and you bought that, so it's split off from that 15 acres, you added that into your property.
Correct.
Which would not make that landlocked, and I believe that that has some area that has frontage on 24th Street, the remainder of that property.
Well, the part we didn't buy.
It does not. There's other,
There
that
is,
we don't own.
it's connected
Okay.
to 24, the original, the part we bought is now
Is not.
connected to us
It's,
and through that to 76.
Okay, I'll talk with staff and
we might need some,
find out what the.
some training.
Cool, I think,
Sorry.
My two-
Thank you.
oh, okay.
You wanna look at it on maps?
Yeah, that's one. Yeah. I don't know, it says I'm connected, but it's not working.
So there's their lot. That's their land. Here's the runoff for the sand.
There's existing places up here, that's all original park, right?
What?
This is the lot.
So they're not
Do we
owning
see on
this lot at all.
No.
To the west. So this is
There's my house.
the land block. So that's.
So here's your frontage.
This is our driveway.
So you split off here,
Draw a line across here and it's now.
part of this. So this line went away and was combined, and this has frontage on 24th Street. Yeah, that's fine, just making sure. Okay. But the proper way would be to come to the city, and then you would file it with the county.
I tried to, I mean,
Well,
probably
it's-
to let Julie know what the steps are. Yeah. someone would say.
You don't see it on my phone?
He's got it. Yeah, I don't know how that's working.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Hello, my name is Richard Holland. I live at 2251 Park Avenue, which would be roughly here. Pool was mentioned earlier. We have a pool. I get more leaves from my neighbor to the east than I do dust. And anybody with my own grass that blows in my own pool, as opposed to we've not noticed any dust issues at our place. As far as the smell, I am farther away than some of the others, but I don't notice the smell. I actually enjoy the smell of cattle and that whole industry. Like when I drive through the stockyard, so I don't mind it. And I would notice it if there was an issue, and I've not noticed it. Again, I'm a little bit farther away than some of the other folks. But one thing I can say is I enjoy these neighbors. I've had the deal with them on a number of occasions for years. They're pleasant, they're approachable. You know, they have the same address number, 2251. They're on Ross, we're 2251 Park. As you can imagine, mail becomes issues, packages go to the wrong places. And so I've been over there. It, again, it just does not, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. I think, you know, my first question, I was approached by one of the neighbors, to sign the petition. As I was approached, I felt like the pitch was a little off, right? I was told that that they're on they were on 4 acres and they were trying to add to their operation or whatever they were doing and adding the property to it. I asked specifically, if they were on 5 acres. And he said, no, it's just 4. And I said, well, it's agricultural, so it has to be 5. And he said, well, their house is on 1 acre of it. And I said, well, that's 5. Right? So it's 4 and 1, it's still 5. It's agricultural, and you know they've got their animals on it. The lights, I would agree. When those first went up, they were bright. But again, there's trees that grew up behind my fence, and so I just quit cutting them down. Right, and it solved my problem. I just didn't let that be an issue. I understand they've got animals out there that they need to protect, and they need lights on them. So again, that didn't bother me. It was a change, right? So I can see that everybody may have had issue as they were trying to adjust to that change. But again, from what I've understood, they've given away a lot of their animals that were posing a problem. They I can also say, and I don't think I heard it brought up, you guys have a trailer back there that's full of chip. What is it? What is it?
It's wood chips, but it's it's fine. So
yeah. So
really
similar to what you'd see, and I used to work at a stable in Norman for racehorses. It's the really nice stuff you put in there to take care of really nice horses. They care for their animals. I see that in everything. Flies. I mean, yeah, we had flies last week, but it was 70 degrees. Yeah, I don't know if that was attributed to anything else. I don't notice them anymore at any time of the year, one way or the other. It's just when it's warm, there's going to be a fly. Again, any questions? I mean, the wind for the most part, yes, does come out of the south, but it should be blowing all this over to my house too.
And you're not opposed to this?
I have no issue with it. I mean, from what I hear, they've had that many animals out there anyways. It's not going to get worse. It's actually going to be reduced from what it's possibly been in the past. So for me, I think it may just resolve itself by putting a number on it, whereas before maybe that they had more than that at times. But like I said, the property right across the fence from me, she's had several animals out there in the past, horses and donkeys, and they bray in the morning and everything. It just doesn't bother me. I like being in the country. Anyways, I did find it interesting, maybe just to myself, but whatever runoff and issue that was, it obviously wasn't enough to keep somebody from closing on the property. So I don't know if that's.
Because the neighbors just let prevent something that's not.
Ma'am?
Sorry.
And then I also understand that Mr. Abbott was probably the one that was concerned about the property line, and he's not upset at all anymore that that's been resolved. And if he was upset, he'd be standing here.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard?
I forgot something else when he said something about they care for the horses. I have at least 2 videos. One from last year, storm came up, and it did come up, and there were large hailstones and they did not put the horses up. The horses were all running around trying to seek shelter. They didn't put them in the barn. They've got a big barn. They could have put them in there. They didn't do that. And then I guess a few weeks ago, the storm came up. Sirens were up. The horses were kind of looking around. They didn't come and put them inside the barn. The barn's right there. I don't know why they would have done that. Also, Mr. Holland has a stockade fence there, which keeps, a lot of the dust and stuff from going into his home, I think. But again, that dust is pretty confined to a more narrow category instead of kind of going out. The dust is the least of the issues. I've got a blower, I can blow it off. But it is the smell, it is the care of the horses. And there is some runoff that I didn't think about until someone brought that up. Trying to find out where my house is at this point. It does run off a pretty good amount. When it does rain, it all comes down this corner and across here and into the creek, into this pond and into this creek that goes down into their pond that's right next to the creek that blows off. There is some runoff there. I didn't think about saying anything about that, but I don't know how hazardous that
The
is.
general trend from runoff from Richmond Park is to the southwest, I believe, isn't it?
Not in this property. There's some residue. There's dirt right here. It comes right off of here. And when this guy, a lot of this comes this way. The runoff. One of the neighbors has had to build some rock and such for the runoff that comes here. It goes downhill this way.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It runs to the west. I
Right.
remember when we platted that.
Right, and it kind of pitches and rolls. It's not straight down, but it does come right off of here, right off of this corner, and right down along here. And there's a pond right here. You can't see it. I think it's dry there, and it's got runoff, and it does run off into that. Just to let you know. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. So, in my mind, it's all about the head count, as far as the number of animals, right? And like you said, you originally set this up for 70,000 square feet per head, assuming that they'd have enough vegetation to make it through the year, right? And so what's happened here is they've got the head count up and they lost their vegetation.
Right.
That's certainly what's happened. Now, one side of me argues if it was a farm and he plowed the thing, it would look the same as it does today. But the other part of that farmer is he's going to eventually have a crop on there and he's going to grow something. So I'm trying to look at this from both sides. You see what I'm saying? It is agriculture. It can certainly be used as ag. The problem is we're asking to push the head count up.
Can I ask the property owner a question? The pictures that you have currently on the MLS with the house being listed for sale, when were those pictures taken? Because there's grass in all the back part.
I'm just looking at pictures.
Right. Well, there's updated pictures on that a realtor or somebody took within the last year that has grass on those. This is a satellite image. I can show you a picture of my house where it looks like we have a dirt front yard also. The updated pictures that are open to the public shows grass back there. So I was just curious, when were those pictures taken?
Those pictures were taken, before it was posted this time.
Okay.
Because it was the same realtor that we have.
So
for
2022, 2023?
years. Yeah.
Okay.
I should say yes to
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
Anyway, do you understand what I'm talking about?
Right,
Because
yeah.
when you move the head count up, then obviously the amount of manure and waste goes up, right?
Right.
And you gotta handle it. And if you don't handle it, it's a problem. So it sounds like they're trying to handle it. I don't know how well they're doing at it. It looks like they're making it yet. But
Well,
if
actually,
they said
we're
there's not
we're
really-
changing the head count. Actually, we're reducing it because they've got the goats gone and we're going down on cattle.
no, the head count is 3 animals, 3 horses, right?
Is what's allowed right now.
That would be allowed for year-round maintenance. Yeah, under.
So what it actually says today is you can have 3 horses out
Right.
there, right? So we're trying to change that and put some of these horses in some stalls,
Right.
right?
Right.
pull the goats out, and leave the steers out there in the pasture. Is basically what it is.
Right. Well, but my point was that if you talk stable or confined husbandry or combined livestock under, as it exists, you can have more than the 3 head, but it's left open to be decided on the UPOR.
Okay.
And that's what we're looking at here.
We would be increasing it, wouldn't we, from 3 to 10? So it'd be,
Well,
they're allowed 3 now, we're increasing it to 10.
I see.
With the 600-foot.
but we're changing how they've got to
It's
have
not a lot of grass. No.
But it's grass.
to have 3, you've got to have 70,000 square feet
Right.
and run them full tilt. If you confine them, then we're saying you need 600 and you got to keep them up and not let them trample out the grass and all that. So it's not, you can have 10 head running on 5 acres, you can have 10 head in a stable and you can manage them.
Do we have something similar? Well, I believe we do, but I don't know what the numbers are for show animals. Like when people have steer for their FFA projects and pigs for their FFA projects, we have something written where if it's for a project they can have
Well,
so many or whatever.
that's what these
Right.
numbers that are standard numbers
Right.
would cover that unless they come in, just like a kennel.
Well,
for dogs.
that's kind of where my head's going too, kind of like that kennel. So if they're inside, then it's
Then it's
really
POR and it's
yeah,
regular.
and you can increase it because it's that number's set for being outside, and now these horses are inside. That
Correct.
is my understanding what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
And the exception to the practical aspect of it, when we set those numbers up, we looked at, like I said, for 3 horses, we just looked at, you can run that and run year round,
Yeah.
and they can forage on the property. But for the show animals, we allowed a pig, but we reduced the number well below what you could have on the property.
Right.
Because all we were really wanting to approve for were show pigs.
Right. Okay.
And so that's where that is. And if you wanted more, you'd have to come in, but probably wouldn't open that up too much.
No.
But let me clarify this. So what we're saying is they can run 3, and the rest of them will have to be put up.
No, we're gonna say they can have
10.
horses in confined stable. And then if they want to keep cattle, they can keep a minimum number of cattle. But we're talking about, okay, if you want a stable, here's how many horses you can have in a stable. Or if they don't want a stable, they'd have to go back to 3 head.
Yeah, so
But
they're
they
just gonna
can't
run,
have-
they're
they
gonna run
can't have-
3, if they're gonna run just in that pen, they're gonna have 3 in that section out there, is what I'm saying, I
In
guess.
5 acres.
In 5 acres. They can only have 3 out.
Right.
So are you worried that they're
If
gonna
we
have
approve
10 in
the
a
stable.
pen and 3 outside?
Yeah.
No, they can't.
that's where your head's at, right? That no, it's gonna be.
I'm just wondering how we're gonna enforce that. Diligently, I should say.
I think they will. Once they say we're gonna go into confined stable, you're in a stable operation, and in all honesty, it's easier to run a stable than it is.
And if we're saying that, hey, there can be 3 out, the rest of them gotta be stable, that's gonna be a better situation than what they have now.
No, they can't. They can have the 10, this is what the UPOR does. And under ag, and this UPOR is only stable horses, is only for lots that are 10 acres or less. So it's not designed for, I've got 40 acres and I wanna increase the amount of heads of horses I can have so I can have a stable. This is designed only for 10 acre or less properties. So what it does is it takes a dry lot, says, okay, the research that Kevin did shows between 400 to 600 square feet per horse for a dry lot. So what he said is, okay, we got 10 horses that we're gonna allow to be in a confined area through a stable. So that's 6,000 square feet. Then you subtract that from the rest of the lot area at 43,560 per acre. You got 170,000, something like that. I got my calculator. Let me do it right here. And then with that remaining lot area, that will allow you 3 goats and 3 steer. They're choosing to have 7 steer at 30,000 square foot an animal. So if you have 43,560 times 5, that gives you 217,800. So you're gonna subtract 6,000 from that. That's for your horses. That's 10 horses at 600 square foot per horse. That leaves you 211,800 square feet. And you divide by that by 30,000 because that's the amount of lot area that's required per 1 head of cattle or steer, divided by 30,000, 7.06 cows are allowed. So they can't go under in this UPOR. Actually, these stipulations are written in the UPOR for this property, and it can't be changed. So that is in addition to the underlying use that's already agriculture that's allowed, horses, cows, agricultural type businesses are allowed on ag property. So what the stable does, it reduces the lot area requirement per head of horse because you're providing a confined stable.
Where is the dry lots gonna be on the property? Are they in the barn? Are they adjacent to the barn? Where are they at?
Yeah, they're in the stable.
In the barn.
So where it says stalls, that's what we're talking about.
Correct.
So not only now are we putting the horses inside, but now that they're gonna be inside, the smell should be mitigated too, because they're gonna be peeing and pooping in those stalls, which is gonna have to be scooped out in the fancy shaving and picked up every Thursday.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about the UPOR is those parameters can be set, you know. I'm not in that business. I don't know, you know, how often the horses are coming and going in and out, and if they're left outside, if they're stabled, like Gordon had reiterated, you know, they're fed and they're put in the stable. I'm not sure of the other comments on as far as them being left out during hail or anything like that. But essentially that is the idea behind it. Now, if they were to go outside the parameters of that UPOR, anyone could call and say, oh, now they've got more goats or they have whatever, and then the same process would happen. We would go, code enforcement, tell them that they have to remove them. They have the 10 days to come into compliance with that. If they don't, then we have to go on down and, like we did with the lights, get them before city council.
So the next question would be, what does that enforcement look like? Because those horses, they have the walker, they'll get exercise there, they'll use them when they're using them to rope, but are we saying that if they're not on them roping, or if they're not on the walker, they have to be in the barn? They can't let them out and get sunlight on a Sunday afternoon?
I don't believe that is true.
Right.
No, that's not what.
Because you're gonna get calls
doesn't mean
when they are.
They have to be in the stable for, 15 hours out of a 24-hour day. It just means that the stable is essentially, like Gordon said, I mean, they're not grazing. They're not grazing. That's the whole idea. They're not utilizing the land to graze. Like you said, when they set this up as far as the square footage lot area requirement per animal, it was taken into account that this was for animals that were going to be grazing. And the UPOR for stable only speaks to horses. It's not for any other animal. I hope did that help?
The calf farm, show calf farm, down off Fox, their condition and everything else.
Well, if it's it's not, if the ordinance doesn't speak to it, anything, any type of use can go to the UPOR.
Yeah. And I would, you know, I mean, if you've got them stabled up and you've got an arena, you may throw the horse in the arena for a period of time, but you aren't gonna leave them running in the arena versus your stalls, because you've got your stalls set up. And like you said, you'll have to have shavings. They said they're using pine shavings, so that should help on the smell. It seems to me the UPOR, as Kevin set it out, will set a number of animals that hasn't been set before, so we won't have any more than known numbers running. They will likely to get rid of the goats. And once you move the horses inside, that may allow them to reestablish some vegetation on the grounds. But, for the most part, it's cross fence, grass fence, so they're going to stay in those areas. I think it's agriculture. It's a valid use of it. I'm in favor of it. That's my 2 cents. Say anything else, or I'll make a motion.
I do have one question about something he said when he was presenting. I've never heard it before, but he said because there was over 50% opposition, can you explain to me what he said?
Well, that requires the city council to have a majority, greater than majority vote, three-member vote to pass it.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and recommend it or recommend the denial either way.
Okay.
But whatever we recommend, it still has to have a super majority vote at city council.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
This time I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the UPOR as given, prepared and set out and presented to us. I think this is a valid use of agricultural land in our community.
I'll second.
And the motion and the second, all in favor signify with that raised hand.
I'll tell you, I'm going to say this for a vote. I'm torn both ways. I do like the agriculture, and I'm going to vote yes, but I hope that helps them. So, yes.
So we have unanimous vote. The recommendation, we'll recommend it to the city council. Matter will be presented on December 9th. On December 9th.
City council.
Thank you. Item number 9 is a discussion and possible action on the replat of the final plat of Queenhorn Estates, Block 4, Block 1.
All right, as stated, item number 9 is the replat of the final plat of Queenhorn Estates, Lot 4, Block 1. So this item is coming to us tonight because in October of this year, the property owner came to the city for an accessory building. In that accessory building, also had a plan for a driveway coming off of Southeast 5th Street. And when looking at the plat, it was identified there were limits of no access along Southeast 5th Street. At that time, looking at the rest of the plat, there were no limits of no access anywhere else on the plat. So the applicant was directed, or guided to rather, to replat this property, to remove that limits of no access. There are no foreseeable impacts with this because...
Wait, slow down just a minute. You said there was no access on the 5th?
There's a limits of no access. Meaning that he couldn't put a driveway there or anything like that. His access is brought
because the plat showed that, or
correct.
why?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the part I didn't hear.
Okay, apologies. His access currently to his current residence is gained off of Fleetmore.
Thank you.
And then so with the ordinances that we currently have, 154.093 does allow additional curb cuts in this zoning designation without the roundabout requirement. That's why he was originally permitted or requested to have that access into the accessory building. So simply, this replat is to remove that limits of no access. All other services are provided on the property: water via an 8-inch water line, on-site sanitary sewer, and the access that we just discussed. The applicant is present for any questions. City staff supports and recommends the acceptance of final plat, or approval rather, of final plat, the replat of the final plat of Cleanor Estates, Lot 4, Block 1.
Was there a reason for no access?
I think so. I think I can tell you. I wanted to ask Kevin a question. The limit of no access was on this lot.
Yes, sir.
My recollection is when we platted this, we wanted to force the house, and the developer wanted to force the house to be built with the drive on around the corner, and didn't want it
That
built
makes
on the
sense.
long.
And we kind of hung him out, didn't we?
Yeah, and so we
Interesting.
just put limit of no access there.
We have since
Well,
reduced the
right.
amount
We're
of
trying to have
limits
that.
of no access that we put on corner lots for that exact reason, because it does limit the builder's possibilities.
Yeah, well, we intended to limit the builder's
Yeah.
possibilities, and that's why that was there.
Mhm.
And actually, with the structure there, and, there will only be allowed one additional drive on this property, so it won't be like
Well, it's
we
not
have.
his primary drive, which was the whole goal.
Yeah. And so I came in this evening wondering about just taking off the limit of no access in the area where we want to drive. But since he's only allowed one more drive, it takes care of itself, as Janae pointed out to me. So I think it's a practical approach, and it won't change the way the development is developed. Anyone have any questions on this? I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the replat of Cleanor Estates, Lot 4, Block 1.
Go ahead.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raise hand. Unanimously approved.
So how do we fix this going forward?
I'm sorry.
How do we fix this going forward? When we put a restriction on a side road, we need to think about how we want to handle that. And I don't know that I have the answer today, but we need to be thinking about that. There ought to be a way to do that.
We probably don't want to use limit of no access as we did here in the future. I mean, there's times for limit of no access.
Well, but on the other hand, we didn't want him to put the drive over.
Well, I think we could restrict the building site
What you could do is
in
just
the plat.
call out the front build line, and the corner lots is usually a 20-foot build line on the side, and your front build line is 35. The other thing is that usually in now that the ordinance has changed to allow the secondary drive in E1, 2, and 3, you might not have to consider doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think you've already fixed it, do you? That is
Yeah.
awesome.
If we're working towards that, like Kevin stated, we really scrutinize where we're putting limits of no access when we're thinking about those lots.
Yeah.
Item 10 is discussion on our 2025 meetings.
We're gonna have it next year, we're just gonna take the whole year off.
Probably won't fly, but.
They won't.
Everything is the last Monday except Memorial Day.
Okay.
And then, November and December, I kind of always let you guys choose if you think.
Well, I think the Monday before the Turkey Day is probably better than the Monday after.
Yeah, and see this year,
So it'd be the 24th.
yeah, you could look at the calendar there, the 17th would be before.
Okay.
So the Monday before that week.
Right, before that.
Okay, so the 17th.
Oh, you're saying the 17th?
Yeah, but hey.
Well, that way, if you're gone for the weekend and you stay one day late.
Yeah, I'm perfect. That's,
So do it the 17th,
Yeah.
not the
You
12th.
Well,
okay with
and see,
I'm okay.
Will this time, see, he's out of town, he was leaving, today,
You know, this is the Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, school will be out on the 24th, so the 17th works because that way.
Okay.
Okay, so November the 17th, and then Christmas. You probably don't want to do it after Christmas.
No. 15.
Does that give
It's
people
either
enough
the
time?
16th, oh, that's this year, sorry.
Do we
Either
have
the
to,
15th or the
what is the
22nd.
notice requirements? Because if we meet on the 24th, that's only,
They just have to get them in November.
So it's either the 22nd or the 15th.
Yeah, 22nd. We wanna do it before Christmas or?
I do want to do it on Christmas, I just don't know whether I want to do it that close to Christmas.
That week.
like the 15th?
Well, I don't want, I wouldn't want to do it after, or the week before, after Christmas. And I'd just soon go to the 15th.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Council will meet on the 8th, so that'll be the same thing we're doing this next time.
When do we meet in December this month?
But
Or this year?
Kathy, you probably
It's the
can answer
15th.
for it
Okay.
next year. You won't have that one to decide.
How is it possible December?
At my rate, I may not even be here.
No,
Yeah, and see, our
It's
December
not
meeting
meeting.
is
Yeah, I know, at my rate, I
the
may-
sixteenth, I think you're.
I already checked out once at the hospital, so.
It's December the 16th.
You're already put.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're late.
Yeah.
You're around.
It's the
it. What-
16th, yeah.
I checked out once, so I mean,
Just ride the trail as long as you can.
I guess
I wanna see the number.
November and December are usually fun for us planners because we go to council and the next week we're going to
Okay, so November the 17th and December the 15th.
Yeah, I'm gonna take pictures.
I'll make you a new one for you.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome, number one, right?
put it on your.
Do we have to-
Repeat.
Do you have to take action on that? You
You're
make a
good.
motion to accept for the meeting
Yeah, we
date.
need to.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 2025 calendar of meeting dates as noted, with the adjustment for May, November, and December as discussed.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by raise hand, be unanimously passed. Item number 11, a discussion possible action on a special meeting, do we need one, does anyone need one? Item 12, new business, old business. Before we adjourn, question, are we getting any closer to getting drafts on the
We're getting there.
code?
We're getting there. We're getting there.
If
We're
we get
not-
to where we can, I'd like to give everybody a chance to read on a draft so that we don't get the final draft and have council expecting us to have looked at it in a week.
Oh, we would not do that.
No.
I promise.
You mean like 320 pages like
Me-
last year, is that what you're referencing?
You mean like our deal that we approved last, yeah.
Yeah, we know they're working on it, and they've gotta have drafts, and if we could just
Yeah.
read on the draft,
Yeah.
that would be a plus. Okay, item 14, adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor, unanimously passed. Thank you, gentlemen.
Y'all have Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas.
Happy